6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey captivated the nation.
Someone killed this 6-year-old child.
It received national news attention right away.
The press was going wild at birth.
The JonBenet Ramsey case has captivated America for nearly 3 decades, shrouded in secrets, deception, and speculation. It wasn't a typical crime. A 6-year-old girl found dead in her own home, a bizarre ransom note, and a seemingly perfect family facade that crumbled instantly. While public opinion was divided, pointing fingers and sparking arguments, the truth remained concealed, obscured by police blunders and relentless media sensationalism. Now, startling new evidence has emerged, promising to unravel the case and expose a far more sinister reality than previously imagined. Could this finally be the resolution everyone has awaited? Prepare yourself, because what's about to be revealed might send shivers down your spine. For a long time, it seemed JonBenet Ramsey's case would never be solved. Guesses and arguments were rampant, and the police appeared to be going nowhere. Many wondered who could commit such a heinous act against a young girl. Years passed, and the case grew cold. However, the advent of new technology, unavailable in the 90s, began to change everything. When JonBenet was murdered in 1996, DNA science was not as advanced as it is today. Back then, police collected minute DNA samples from her clothing and under her fingernails. They knew it belonged to an unknown male, but the samples were too tiny for clear, strong tests, providing minimal information, which was incredibly frustrating. Science steadily improved over the years. Experts discovered methods to extract more information from smaller DNA fragments. A particularly significant breakthrough was genetic genealogy, which involves tracing individuals through family trees and DNA samples submitted to public ancestry websites. Even if a criminal never submits their DNA, family members might. By examining family members' DNA, investigators can begin assembling a large puzzle, identifying a potential family and then narrowing down to the individual. In 2024, the police decided to try this approach for JonBenet's case. They partnered with Parabon Nanolabs, a specialized company known for solving cold cases using DNA to determine family ties. Utilizing cutting-edge technology, the police generated a new, enhanced DNA profile, which they uploaded to a public DNA website. They found some distant relatives, but not an immediate match. These relatives might have been cousins or more distant kin, not close family. Nevertheless, this was a crucial lead. Experts and police then meticulously constructed family trees, examining old documents, birth records, marriage certificates, and even social media posts. After months of painstaking work, carefully checking each branch, they finally identified one man who fit the profile. This man was about 62 years old in 2024, meaning he was 34 in 1996. He lived just 2 miles from the Ramsey home and worked for a catering company that serviced parties in the Ramsey neighborhood, including one just a few doors away around Christmas. Now that this long-hidden suspect has been uncovered, what new evidence connects him to that tragic night? This man had never been a suspect before. No one had ever considered him. He had a record of non-violent crimes, such as burglary and fraud, but nothing that suggested he was dangerous to children. Consequently, the police had never interviewed him. After the murder, he moved away from Colorado, relocating to Arizona, then Nevada, Texas, and later Washington State, constantly moving, perhaps trying to start anew or to hide. The police secretly collected his DNA from discarded items like a coffee cup or a cigarette butt. They tested this DNA, and it precisely matched the DNA found on JonBenet's clothes. The probability of it belonging to someone else was infinitesimally small. When they searched his home and a storage unit, they discovered more clues. They found an old jacket from the 90s, with fibers matching those from JonBenet's clothes. They also re-examined the ransom note using new software, which revealed handwriting patterns that matched samples from the man's old job records. At present, it's unclear if he knew the Ramsey family personally. Perhaps he learned about them through his work nearby, or saw them at a party. He might have known they were leaving town after Christmas and planned to sneak in. Before an official arrest, personnel are diligently cross-checking facts to ensure they have all necessary proof. After years of waiting and sorrow, this news offers JonBenet's family renewed hope and a glimmer of light. How did the shocking events on that cold December morning truly unfold? And why did the investigation so catastrophically fall apart? JonBenét Ramsey's tragic death on December 26, 1996, was a day that stunned the world and irrevocably changed her family's lives. On a frigid morning shortly after Christmas, her mother, Patsy Ramsey, discovered a lengthy, peculiar, handwritten ransom note on the stairs of their large home. Unlike most ransom notes, this one was unusually long, spanning about 2.5 pages, and incredibly detailed. It demanded precisely $118,000, almost identical to John Ramsey's annual work bonus, which immediately raised suspicions. Upon reading the note, Patsy realized JonBenet was missing. Frightened and unsure what to do, she quickly called the police. When police arrived, they initially believed it was merely a kidnapping, failing to secure the entire house as a crime scene. Instead, they only cordoned off JonBenet's bedroom, allowing family members and friends to freely move throughout the house, potentially contaminating crucial evidence. Later that same day, John Ramsey, JonBenet's father, found her body in their basement. She was just 6 years old. Her small body showed severe injuries, including a fractured skull, and she had been strangled with a homemade garrote, fashioned from a cord and part of her mother's paintbrush. Although there were signs of sexual assault, experts did not find strong evidence of actual rape. The official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation, combined with a serious head injury, clearly indicating murder. JonBenet was later buried at St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia, alongside her half-sister, Elizabeth, who had died tragically in a car accident for years prior. The loss of 2 daughters was heartbreaking for the family. Investigation into JonBenet's death was riddled with errors. Another significant mistake was allowing John and Patsy to be interviewed together instead of separately, a standard protocol to prevent influencing each other's answers. Moving JonBenet's body also destroyed vital evidence that could have helped determine her death and what truly occurred in the basement. The ransom note itself was another puzzling element. Its unusual length and the fact it was written on paper found within the house suggested an insider. Handwriting experts disagreed on its authorship. Fibers from the duct tape used on JonBenet's body matched fibers from Patsy's clothing, further deepening the mystery. There was no sign of forced entry, and no kidnapper ever called or attempted to collect the money. In 1998, DNA tests revealed that the DNA found on JonBenet's clothes did not match anyone in the family, causing even more confusion. Although the grand jury sought to indict the parents, the district attorney decided there wasn't sufficient evidence and no one was officially charged. In 2003, new DNA tests identified an unknown male's DNA on JonBenet's clothing, which did not match any family members or known suspects. The police later apologized to the parents and legally cleared them. The Ramsey family even filed lawsuits against news outlets that had accused them, seeking to restore their public image. Some believe that if the crime scene had been fully secured and modern DNA tests used earlier, the true killer might have been identified, and the mystery of JonBenet's death finally solved. Beyond all the theories and questions about what really happened that night, who was JonBenét Ramsey before this tragedy? For almost 30 years, people discussed this case, theorized, and wondered who the real killer was. Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's older brother, who was just 9 when she died, was often a subject of discussion. He remained silent for a long time, refusing to speak to the media. Despite never being charged or officially suspected, some people developed theories about him. Recently, after 28 years, Burke finally broke his silence. Now in his late 30s, he shared how losing his sister profoundly impacted his life. He described JonBenet as a happy, contented girl who brought laughter and light into their home. He also spoke about the difficulty of growing up with constant speculation and accusations against his family, explaining the enduring sadness and its current hold on him. Burke criticized the handling of the investigation, specifically stating, his parents should not have been interviewed together. He expressed his continued frustration and lack of understanding regarding the ransom note's authorship. He supports using new DNA technology to re-examine all evidence, hoping for real answers. He shared his desire for justice for his sister, not just for his own sake, but to bring peace to his family and reveal the truth to everyone. He defended his parents, asserting they were under immense emotional stress and didn't know how to cope with the terrible situation, suffering both from their daughter's loss and public accusation. Burke's words have reignited interest in the case. Police, lawyers, and true crime enthusiasts are now discussing his interview, speculating about new clues that might help solve the case. While his statements don't solve the mystery, they offer a personal and profound perspective on a story long filled with wild theories and gossip. At the heart of this tragedy was JonBenet's own vibrant life. Before all this, she was a lively little girl with a big smile. She loved performing and competing in child beauty pageants, winning multiple titles before the age of 7. She enjoyed showcasing her charm on stage, dressing in elegant gowns and glittering costumes. She attended kindergarten at Boulder's High Peaks Elementary School, where she was just another inquisitive, gregarious kid. Her parents encouraged her interests, and she looked up to her older brother. Her father, John, worked hard to provide her with a comfortable life, and her mother, Patsy, nurtured her love of pageants. JonBenet lived in a large house in a nice neighborhood, surrounded by love and comfort. She was known for her bouncy blonde hair and a smile that could light up a room. For everyone who followed the story, all of this only deepens the sadness of her loss and the mystery surrounding her death. Even after so many years, people still remember JonBenet for the happy, intelligent young girl she was, in addition to the tragic way she passed away. After all the years of pain and waiting, what clues and evidence have really been found to help explain what happened to JonBenet? On the day JonBenet was found, her father, Mr. Ramsey, re-examined the basement alone. He confirmed seeing a broken window, slightly ajar, and observed a suitcase beneath it. Although the suitcase belonged to the family, he noted it wasn't usually stored there. When JonBenet was found dead, the case presented a perplexing array of strange and confusing evidence. 2 different sets of unexplained footprints were found at the scene. A rope not belonging to the family was discovered near her bedroom, but was never tested, despite its potential to offer crucial clues. Outside, despite snow on the ground, there were no footprints leading to or from the house, and no signs of forced entry, raising questions about how anyone could have entered undetected. Another perplexing aspect was Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's dual brother, who was initially reported to be asleep, but later interviewed by authorities. His behavior puzzled investigators, who struggled to determine if his apparent emotional detachment was a coping mechanism or something more concerning. Additionally, the Ramsey family's general reluctance to be interviewed separately further complicated the investigation. The ransom note itself was another strange element. It appeared someone had practiced writing it before creating the final version. The note was signed with the letters SBTC, the meaning of which has never been deciphered. Many different suspects emerged in this case. Initially, many believed an insider might be responsible. Some suspected JonBenet's mother, Patsy, was involved, while others thought her brother, Burke, might have accidentally hurt her. However, handwriting experts could not definitively confirm Patsy wrote the note, and there was no strong evidence implicating Burke. Another suspect was Bill McReynolds, who dressed as Santa Claus and had visited JonBenet a few days before her death. He claimed to feel very close to her, even keeping glitter she gave him and requesting it be mixed with his ashes, which many found odd, but there was no concrete proof connecting him to JonBenet's harm. Gary Oliva also became a suspect. He lived near the Ramseys and was later arrested for child pornography. After JonBenet's death, he told a friend he had hurt a little girl, raising significant suspicion. However, his DNA did not match the DNA found on JonBenet, so he was not charged. Years later, John Mark Carr confessed to the crime, claiming he loved JonBenet and had hit her head with a flashlight, but police confirmed he was in another state at the time and his DNA did not match, ruling him out. Later, some DNA experts re-examined the evidence, suggesting the unknown DNA on JonBenet's clothes might have originated from the factory where her clothes were made. Small bits of DNA can sometimes remain on new clothes before they are worn, adding another layer of confusion and unanswered questions to the case. Today, JonBenet's case remains unsolved. Many people worldwide continue to think about her and wonder who truly murdered her. Even after all these years, her story continues to touch hearts and inspire hope that one day the real truth will emerge. What shocking new clues came to light after JonBenet's death, and could they finally help clear her family's name? Around 9 months after JonBenét Ramsey's profoundly sad and shocking death, something truly terrifying and bizarre occurred in Boulder, Colorado. Another young girl was attacked while sleeping in her bed at home with her mother. On what should have been a peaceful evening, a man stealthily entered the house. He managed to gain covert entry without significant noise or visible damage, eluding the mother's immediate notice. The man went directly to the little girl's room and attacked her in her bed. The mother, sleeping in her own room, heard something strange and awoke. Upon coming out, she actually saw the man. The man saw her too, and instead of fighting or lingering, he fled very quickly, not just out the front door, but by jumping off a balcony or high deck to escape into the night. It was a terrifying and shocking experience for both the mother and daughter. The truly astonishing aspect of this case is that this new attack happened just a few blocks from the Ramsey family's home, practically in the same neighborhood even. More surprising, the two girls actually knew each other. They were not strangers. Both attended the same dance school, shared a love for dance and performing, and had even performed together in local shows before these horrific incidents. Despite the close proximity in time and location, and the fact that both victims were young girls who knew each other, the Boulder police did not seriously investigate the possibility of a connection between the two cases. They did not compare DNA evidence from both scenes or search for similar clues that might link them. Instead, they focused excessively on the Ramsey family from the outset, ignoring many other potential leads. To make matters worse, in the case of the second little girl, the police actually discarded crucial evidence. One of the most important items they threw away was the bedsheets from the girl's bed where she was attacked. These sheets could have contained DNA or other clues vital for identifying the attacker later. Because they were discarded, it became impossible to test them when more advanced technology became available, marking a significant failure and demonstrating a lack of investigative care. Many years later, in 2008, the Ramsey family was finally officially cleared as suspects in JonBenet's case. However, by that time, JonBenet's mother, Patsy, had already passed away from cancer in 2006, even after the family was cleared. Much of the public still believed they might have been involved. This perception lingered for a long time due to rumors and the initial narrative spread by the police rather than concrete evidence. The Boulder police had focused so heavily on blaming the family that they failed to properly examine other evidence or other suspects. This narrow focus created a narrative that many people accepted, making it incredibly difficult for the family to live under that suspicion for so many years. Now, after almost 3 decades, a new investigative team is re-examining JonBenet's case. This team comprises experienced investigators who are meticulously reviewing all old evidence, using new technology and fresh perspectives to uncover anything previously missed. JonBenet's father, John, and her brother, John Andrew, are both hopeful that this new investigation will finally uncover the truth and bring justice for JonBenet. They believe the real killer might still be alive and that there is still a chance to solve the mystery and clear their family's name forever. After learning about another attack, mishandled evidence, and a small spark of hope for justice, what was truly happening inside the wealthy Ramsey family's home on that mysterious night? The case of JonBenét Ramsey is one of America's most challenging and shocking unsolved mysteries, still discussed and pondered many years later. This tragic story involves a young girl, a very wealthy family, strange clues from neighbors, and the parents' behavior which fueled public suspicion. Additionally, conflicts between the local police and the district attorney's office further complicated and hindered the investigation. JonBenet's father, John Ramsey, was a successful businessman, president of Access Graphics, a company that generated approximately $1 billion in gross revenue. This success earned John the title of Entrepreneur of the Year in 1995 from the Boulder Chamber of Commerce, contributing to the perception of the Ramsey family as very rich. Despite their opulent lifestyle, John later stated that they did not perceive themselves as wealthy, claiming he continued to work hard and never felt super rich. Still, many people and the media portrayed them as affluent and spoiled. On the night of JonBenet's death, some neighbors reported hearing and seeing strange things. One neighbor claimed she heard a very loud scream, the longest and most frightening she had ever heard, which she believed came from JonBenet. She was concerned but assumed the parents would handle it since they were home. Another neighbor reported seeing faint lights moving inside the Ramsey kitchen late at night. These observations contribute to theories suggesting Burke might have fought with his sister over some pineapple she ate accidentally hurting or even killing her. According to these theories, John and Patsy then covered up for their son by staging the scene to resemble a home invasion. However, these theories fail to account for the unknown male DNA found on JonBenet's clothing. So, with knowledge of the family's wealth and that strange night, what odd behaviors and investigation problems followed? JonBenet's autopsy report indicated undigested food in her stomach, appearing to be fruit or vegetables, possibly pineapple, suggesting she had eaten shortly before her death. On the day her body was found, photographs of the house showed a bowl of pineapple with a spoon on the kitchen table. However, both John and Patsy claimed they couldn't recall placing the bowl there or feeding JonBenet that night. Investigators later reported that Patsy Ramsey's fingerprints were found on the bowl. John and Patsy Ramsey's behavior after realizing JonBenet was missing was considered strange by many. Patsy called 911 early in the morning at around 5:52 a.m. on December 26, 1996. When police arrived, they noticed John and Patsy did not remain close or offer each other consolation, which is atypical for parents during such a traumatic event. When John later found JonBenet's body in the basement, he picked her up and brought her upstairs. Many believe he did this to conceal something, while others think he was simply a grieving, shocked father reacting instinctively to help his daughter. In interviews, John stated he hoped he could still save her, or that it was his initial reaction to hold her. There were also significant conflicts between the Boulder Police Department and the District Attorney's Office. On one hand, a James Kohler, a lead investigator for the District Attorney's Office, stated that more male DNA was also found on both the cord and the paintbrush. Evidence that Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey never publicly addressed Kohler explained that, in total, 6 separate DNA samples from unknown individuals were identified during testing. Former FBI profiler Candice DeLong believes that the consistent appearance of the same DNA in multiple locations strongly suggests it belonged to the person responsible. On the other hand, the District Attorney's Office aimed to examine all possible suspects, including the parents, although there wasn't enough strong proof to arrest John and Patsy. These problems and disagreements between the police and the further confused the case, hindering progress in finding the truth. Due to numerous mistakes, lost evidence, and differing opinions among investigators, the true story of what happened to JonBenet remains a mystery. The Ramsey family's wealth and public image also significantly influenced public and media perception of the case. Many believed their wealth allowed them to evade charges or receive special treatment. Others felt they were unfairly judged simply for being affluent and in the public eye. Ultimately, JonBenét Ramsey's case underscores the critical importance of carefully handling crime scenes and avoiding premature conclusions. It also illustrates the consequences when law enforcement agencies fail to collaborate effectively. Today, the case remains unsolved. Many continue to wonder who murdered JonBenet and why. Her story serves as a poignant reminder of a young girl with a bright future whose life was cut short, and a family forever marked by questions and pain. The case remains one of the most discussed mysteries, and people still hope that one day the truth will finally emerge.